So what it comes down to really is like you see that there's like certain levers that you can pull that allow protein synthesis to work at a pretty high level, and these would ultimately be the signals that you're sending to initiate the process. So we kind of have, resistance training, or creating muscular tension as an area of signal. We have nutritional status as an area of need and signal, and as well as like just requirement to be there, like assembly materials. And then we have areas such as like lifestyle, sleep, stress management, things like that. You know, it's when you get into the mechanisms, people try to take advantage of it and sell gimmicky products and crap like that. But unfortunately, like where the mechanisms seem to lead us in terms of like things like human randomized controlled trials and studies on what kinds of training methods actually work, it seems as though it leads us sort of like to a lot of these things of like the basics are really, really critical. So what you really need as a foundation in your life to be able to drive this stuff is you need to have a sufficient level of protein, which is a gram per pound of protein, gram per pound body weight of intake. So a 200-pound person would need about 200 grams of protein. More than that doesn't seem to be beneficial. And you need to be in a total calorie surplus. So if you are in a maintenance level or in a deficit, you're probably unable to drive any appreciable muscle gain. No matter how hard you're training, no matter what else is kind of going on, unless something like steroids would be in the mix. Thinking along the lines of like a normal natural athlete, you really need to be able to put yourself in a calorie surplus, or every other piece of the puzzle is going to be meaningless. Now, on top of that, there needs to be some level of resistance training. And we're probably going to talk about some of the specifics about the mechanics involved with what seems to be ideal. But what we can kind of say is that people have lifted weights for a long time, and there seems to be a pretty wide spread of methods to be able to use for resistance training input as to what would grow tissue. So if you are lifting enough weights, some form of resistance training, you're in a surplus, and sleep seems to be this really critical ingredient as well. It's insufficient levels of sleep will sabotage you in ways that we really can't even mechanistically explain altogether at this point. But at the end of all of this stuff of protein synthesis discussion and signals and Watson and Crick and blah, 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 it's kind of like you need to train, you need to eat, and you need to sleep. And if you're doing those things, then you're going to provide the general environment for being able to grow skeletal tissue.